But today, Bakersfield rolled out its red carpet for President George Bush, and the crowds who greeted him at the airport were not disappointed. It was a patriotic crowd of about 400 people on hand when the president touched down in Air Force One this morning at Meadows Field. Even though the president was here just a few minutes this morning, he stopped, as you can see. He talked to the crowds. He shook hands. Then President Bush boarded a Marine helicopter for his quick ride up to the Sequoia National Forest.
When President George Bush visited the Sequoia National Forest in July of 1992, he was recognizing years of hard work by many dedicated people and celebrating one of the Earth's most awe-inspiring living things. Giant sequoia trees are among the Earth's largest and oldest living things, some of them reaching the age of 3,500 years. They have long been a source of both inspiration and controversy. Extensive logging of these forest monarchs in the 19th century stirred national controversy. By the mid-1930s, most of the groves had been placed under federal protection. The trees are native to a small band within the Sierra Nevada of California, with most of them located on lands managed by the United States Forest Service. Preserving these giants has turned out to be a complicated task. Naturally occurring wildfires provide the open space and bare soil that are essential for the survival of young sequoias. As part of an effort to replicate the effects of fire and stimulate new growth, the Forest Service began to cut the competing trees in the Giant Sequoia Groves.
We began to actively manage Giant Sequoia Groves to ensure that Giant Sequoia seedlings would have the competitive edge in the groves. In doing that, we did not recognize what the public reaction was. There was a tremendous public outcry.
The Forest Service responded by working with industry, environmental groups, and the general public to forge an agreement on the best way to preserve, protect, and restore giant sequoia groves. By elevating this mediated settlement to the level of a presidential proclamation, the future of the giant sequoia groves is secure. For those who worked on the agreement, recognition by the president is a great honor. However, the logistics of hosting a presidential visit are formidable, especially when there is only 1 week's notice.
Well, in fact, the president will be here tomorrow to laud that agreement. But let me tell you, the National Forest Service had its hands full this week, totally occupied with finding out how they could get the president into this remote area of the Sequoia National Forest.
The site ultimately chosen for the signing of the Presidential Proclamation was the remote and scenic Freeman Creek Grove. Among the reasons for its selection is its proximity to the R.M. Piles camp. The R.M. Piles Boys Camp has been a Forest Service permittee for nearly half a century. It was begun by oil company executive R.M. Piles to help at-risk youth, and has been supported by the oil industry ever since. In the spring of 1992, it was distinguished by the White House as one of George Bush's 1,000 Points of Light.
Most of these kids have never been in the forest before. They have no idea what they're going to experience. They come from some very, very difficult home life. I was a camper back in 1965. So I was from the San Fernando Valley out of Los Angeles. So I was a camper in '65. I had a wonderful experience. It was a life-changing experience.
For many years, Jim Shivak was a counselor and assistant director of the Piles Boys Camp before joining the Forest Service and embarking on a distinguished career in botany, a career which includes the discovery of 16 new plant species. Because of his scientific familiarity with the Freeman Creek Grove and his close connection to the Piles Boys Camp, Shivak was asked to walk with the presidential party.
I owe my experience at Piles Camp to really turning me on to botany, and it became my scientific career. So it's just a really remarkable experience, and there are so many kids from Piles Camp who have similar stories that have been totally successful, and they can attribute that turn in their life to that camp.
On the morning of July 14th, 400 invited guests joined Forest Service and security personnel at the proclamation signing site in front of a 2,500-year-old giant sequoia.
I wanted to welcome you to California's great outdoors, the Sequoia National Forest and also the National Forests of the Pacific Southwest region. We're here today to declare that these groves are of national and international significance, worthy of protection and enjoyment. They need to be protected and perpetuated.
While Regional Forester Ron Stewart welcomed the guests, President George Bush and the Chief of the Forest Service, Dale Robertson, toured the Freeman Grove.
Why is it important to protect the outdoors?
You want to leave it a little better than you found it for the generations to come. And you really get that feeling that you have to do that when you come to something this beautiful.
Would you please join me in welcoming the President of the United States, George Bush?
Thank you for the welcome.
Well, I'm sure.
All right, thank you. You already given a little speech here? Such a nice hand.
Warmed them up for you.
Hey, you guys.
Okay, you want to introduce me? Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to introduce to you the Chief of the Forest Service, Dale Robertson.
Okay. Well, thank you and good morning. We've had a great walk in the woods with the President to see and experience the giant sequoia forest. You know, I've worked for the Forest Service for 32 years, and these last 4 years has been a period of great change and progress in the management of the National Forest. And I could summarize that in just 3 short points. Partnerships and volunteerism, like never before. The Forest Service has over 5,500 partners. Many of you here are partners to the Forest Service, and we have about 95,000 volunteers who are helping us get the conservation job done on the National Forest. Secondly, we have greatly expanded our outdoor recreation, fisheries, and wildlife programs over the last 3 to 4 years to better meet the needs of the American people. And thirdly, we are managing the National Forest in a more environmentally sensitive way than ever before toward an ecological approach. And all of these changes are tied to presidential initiatives. And Mr. President, I want to say that you're seeing many points of light here today in the form of forest partners in the audience. And you're seeing the American Great Outdoors Recreation Initiative at work here in the Sequoia National Forest. And you're seeing professional care of these forests in partnership with the people of California. And so, Mr. President, we want to thank you for your strong support and leadership in conservation and for helping make a difference and with the Forest Service and our partners in our conservation job. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Thank you all very much. Dale, thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much, you guys. Well, Dale Robertson, thank you, sir. And as all of you know, Mr. Robertson is the chief of the U.S. Forest Service, but I would like to take this opportunity not simply to thank him, but to thank the other dedicated professionals that work in the Forest Service. And I'm just delighted to be here today and delighted that Bill Riley, the head of EPA, is with us, that Congressman Bill Thomas, who claims this as part of his own congressional district, proudly proclaims it, brags about it, understandably so, is with us today. Forest Supervisor Sandra Key, and also an old friend Derek Crandall could join us. And let me begin by acknowledging the hard work and the valuable time being invested in our environment by the likes of Bruce Howard and the Save the Redwoods League, David Magny and the California Native Plant Society, the Audubon Society, the Nature Conservatory. They all do fantastic work in keeping this the way it ought to be. I understand we have some special guests here. I met one group of them, and these are the kids from R.M. Pyle's Boys Camp. And they come out here away from it all to learn how to hike and fish and pitch a tent, and they learn how to respect themselves and respect the land. And I believe Teddy Roosevelt had these kids in mind when he spoke of the beautiful gifts that we've received from nature, gifts that we ought to hand on as a precious heritage to our children and our children's children. And the fact is, these forests, our lakes and our lands, they are gifts. The commonwealth that we inherited from our parents, that we borrow from our kids. And that's the spirit of this agreement that we'll salute here today. Different groups, from government agencies to private organizations, have come together, bridging ideological divides in order to forge an agreement that protects our Sequoia groves as part of our national legacy, our common heritage, if you will. Whatever name you put on it, our actions are going to speak louder than words. And when words are memories, when we are long gone, these trees will stand. The fact is, only a growing economy can generate the resources that we need to take care of our natural assets. And our environmental policies are designed to give businesses new incentives to prevent pollution, to innovate, and create new environmental technologies, and to save money by becoming more efficient. Our objective is to reconcile America's deep desire to improve our economic well-being, to have secure jobs and homes, to be able to educate our kids, and to have water we can drink and air that we can breathe. And I believe this nation can achieve both of these objectives. No other country in the world has come so far along this road, and none will go farther than the United States of America. The steps we take here today can blaze a trail for others to follow. And in case anyone should miss the forest for the trees, so to speak, here's a reminder. They were here first. And these trees to watch history go by. Some of these sequoias, I was reminded by Dale as we walked through the grove, were already seedlings by the time Christ walked the earth. And I think back to Sequoia himself. The first time he saw the Bible, he called it talking leaves. And I think those leaves have something to teach us today. In Revelations, we learn that the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. Well, we are healing our forests, our parks, and our lands, and it's a beautiful country, and I want more and more of the American people to enjoy settings like we're in right here today. And let's remember to take time to come out, show our kids the land, to walk among the redwoods, to climb a mountain. Our land can heal us too. It is a joy. It is a joy for me to be out here with you all today in this beautiful setting. And thank you very much for coming, and may God bless our great country, the United States of America. Thank you very, very much. one witness. We need one of you. All right, right here. First volunteer. Normally volunteering gets you in trouble. Get in here, man. Here you go. Turn right around here. Here's the way it works. Giant Sequoia National Forest. What's the date today? It's the 14th. It's the 14th of... this proclamation, this is the way it looks. You all have a statement. Just delighted to get a chance to see this wonderful forest. Hope you take that. Why don't I just give you this pen as a souvenir? I was going to give it to the counter.
The visit by President Bush to the Sequoia National Forest marked the end of one period in the management of Giant Sequoia. However, it is only the beginning of a major effort to better understand the groves. Groves have been designated for research and for botanical and historical significance. A major element of the plan is to restore these groves to ensure that young sequoias will grow into magnificent monarch trees. President Bush left many lasting impressions, and as Regional Forester Ron Stewart announced, he also left a lasting legacy.
Finally, I'm pleased to announce something that some people are already anticipating, and that this tree has been designated the George Bush Giant Sequoia. As I said, we'll never know whether another president will walk by here, but future generations of your children and mine will come by here and mark this spot. Let me just tell you what the plaque will say. It says, this giant sequoia tree is designated the George Bush tree in celebration of the President's action at this date, July 14, 1992, to manage giant sequoia in perpetuity as unique objects of beauty and antiquity for the benefit and inspiration of all people.